Tonight, the status of a citizenship question on the 2020 census, how the Trump administration is keeping up its fight to include a question some lawmakers say is more about discrimination than an accurate census count, and the Democratic presidential field of candidates changing by the day, who's in and who's out in the 2020 race for the White House. Plus, abortion in America, how one of the largest black denominations is working to help women choose life. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Has the administration figured out how to include a citizenship question on the census? Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup.
And I'm Jenna Browder. Well, the fight over including a citizenship question on the 2020 census continues, with Attorney General Bill Barr now involved.
Barr says he sees a legal path and that the Justice Department is considering new options to get it on next year's survey. CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy joins us now. Ben, has Barr revealed anything about when we might know more about the White House's plans?
Well, John and Jenna, Barr says we'll know in the next day or two what direction the White House plans to take. Now, the census is already being printed, but that is not stopping President Trump's efforts to get the question added.
We've been considering all the options.
One option is a presidential executive order.
I've been in constant discussions with the president ever since the Supreme Court decision came down. And I think over the next day or two, you'll see what approach we're taking.
The Supreme Court ruled 5-4 last month to block the census citizenship question, but the White House is not giving up. Hans, you've written about this in the past. Why must this question be on the census?
Well, because we need accurate data on the total population of the U.S., including non-citizens. I mean, there are numerous reasons for it, everything from the redistricting and political processes to the distribution of federal funds. I mean, look at it this way. We are in the midst of a vigorous debate about immigration policy in this country. How can you have an informed debate if you don't have accurate data?
Trump argues they need the information to help enforce the Voting Rights Act. Democrats, however, say it would cause an undercount of immigration populations.
They want to be sure that just their people vote and not the general population. And that's why they're fighting the census. This is about keeping, make America, his hat, make America white again. They want to make sure that certain people are counted. It's really disgraceful.
The White House says it's all about trying to find out who is in our country. There may yet be a path legally to get it on the census, as the case is now being heard in the lower courts. John, Jenna?
Thanks, Ben. Well, there are growing calls tonight for Labor Secretary Alex Acosta to resign, coming in the wake of new sex trafficking charges against the multimillionaire Jeffrey Epstein. Back in 2007,
I am
Acosta
calling on Secretary Acosta to resign. It is now impossible for anyone to have confidence in Secretary Acosta's ability to lead the Department of Labor. If he refuses to resign, President Trump should fire him. Instead of prosecuting a predator and serial sex trafficker of children, Acosta chose to let him off easy. This is not acceptable. We cannot have, as one of the leading appointed officials in America, someone who has done this.
Acosta addressed the situation on Twitter today, saying crimes committed by Epstein are horrific. And with the evidence available more than a decade ago, federal prosecutors insisted he go to jail and register as a sex offender. And now that the new evidence and testimony are available, there is an important opportunity to more fully bring Epstein to justice. And President Trump today praised Secretary Acosta for his work in the Labor Department. He added he'll be taking a careful look at how he handled the Epstein case.
Well, Obamacare is back in court facing another legal challenge. At issue is whether a Texas judge acted properly in striking it down by ending the individual mandate. Abigail Robertson joins us now with how politicians are staking out their positions in this court fight. Abby?
That's right, Jenna. As the appeals court heard arguments on the Affordable Care Act's constitutionality, Democrats on the Hill warned what could happen if Obamacare is struck down.
The stakes cannot be higher.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, joined by Democrat lawmakers, holding up pictures of Americans positively affected by Obamacare, blaming Republicans if millions of Americans were to lose their health care.
If Republicans prevail, these protections are obliterated overnight. They go home and they say they want to protect pre-existing conditions, and then they act to take them away and do nothing to preserve them.
But on the Senate floor,
blaming Republicans in Congress for a yet-to-be-decided court case doesn't make a lot of sense.
Republican Senator John Cornyn argued that claim is untrue.
If there's one thing that I think there is a consensus on in the health care field in Congress, it is that pre-existing conditions should be covered.
Meanwhile,
if we win the House back, keep the Senate and win the presidency, we're going to have a plan that blows away Obamacare. It'll be less expensive, and it'll be far better health care and health insurance. And we'll be announcing it over the next month or so.
President Trump is teasing a forthcoming GOP health care plan. Many analysts believe if the Fifth Circuit upholds Obamacare, the Supreme Court is not likely to take it up again. Regardless of the court's decision, it's clear health care will certainly dominate the 2020 elections. Back to you, John and Jenna.
All right, Abigail Robertson on Capitol Hill. Well, speaking of Campaign 2020, the Democratic field does look a little bit different tonight.
That's right. One candidate drops out just as another throws his hat into the ring. Amber Strong has a look at those changes, plus some wins and loses ahead of this month's debate.
With the debate just weeks away, some names are looking to make a fresh appeal to voters, while another is moving on.
There will be a time when you believe everything is over. That will be the beginning.
At least one thing is over, his run for the White House. California Congressman Eric Swalwell left this contest Monday and will refocus on pursuing his fifth term in Congress.
We understand, it's a steep hill, but we want to give it our best shot.
Former Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper is still battling it out, although his run is steeper after his campaign manager, spokesperson, and financial director all jumped ship.
You're going to have jobs again, I promise you.
Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, who's still polling at less than 1%, is still swinging with a fresh ad campaign targeted at key Rust Belt states. As VP Joe Biden still tops the polls, his debate clash with Senator Kamala Harris over his work with segregationists may have cost him.
Was I wrong a few weeks ago to somehow give the impression to people that I was praising those men who I successfully opposed time and again? Well, yes, I was.
That apology could be too little too late. According to a new Morning Consult poll, Biden dropped 8% with African-American voters since the debate. Former colleagues and supporters say don't sell the former VP short.
I think you will underestimate Joe Biden at your own peril. And one thing I'll say about Kamala Harris, and I said this before, she's got game.
And just when you thought it was over, billionaire Tom Steyer reversing his decision not to run and announcing his candidacy Tuesday. Steyer will reportedly use $100 million of his own money to fund his campaign. Amber Strong, CBN News, Washington.
Now is David Brody, CBN's chief political analyst. David, what do you think? Does Tom Steyer have a shot here? Is he too late?
I don't think he's too late. I mean, it's July, but, he's got an uphill climb here. First of all, yeah, he's getting in a little late to a degree. But look, can I just say it? He's a white hedge fund manager in a party that's going for diversity. That's a problem. Having said that, he's going to spend, if he stays in the race this long, $100 million. That's a lot of money. And I think it can give him some staying power for now. And the media is interested in him, so he'll have a narrative out there.
Does he have what it takes to meet the benchmarks for the second Democratic debate?
I think so. You only need 1%. I mean, you just need to show up. No, that's not true. You need, I'm sorry, I had to say it. You only need 1% in the polls. And
there are several candidates who don't have that, though.
I know. Ask Eric Swalwell, who probably was going under 1%. Plus, you need 65,000 unique donors. I think he'll get it because he's a billionaire, going to spend a lot of money. He'll be on the campaign trail in South Carolina, and the media will give him a lot of oxygen. I think he'll be there. Having said that, in September or late August, when the next debate is, they double the criteria for getting on stage. That'll be a little different.
David, today, Amy McGrath announced her bid to challenge Mitch McConnell for his Senate seat. She's a former Marine fighter pilot, a bit of a fundraising juggernaut in one of her past elections that she lost. In any other state, she'd be an attractive candidate, but we're talking about Kentucky coal country.
Yeah, and there you go. Kentucky coal country. You said Marine pilot, fighter pilot. Here's the thing. She's a very, very, very liberal Marine fighter pilot, and that's the problem, especially in Kentucky. And already Mitch McConnell out with an ad basically using her own words against her on abortion, on health care, on the border, everything. So, look, I think this is a slam dunk for Mitch McConnell. He is probably at the most popular he's ever been within the Republican Party. So I think the conservative grassroots will not desert him in Kentucky.
In the Democratic Party, we are seeing a real split up on Capitol Hill. You know, Nancy Pelosi, more moderate, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, much more liberal. Those two kind of going at it, exchanging some barbs. David, how do you see this playing out?
Well, first of all, I think it's going to play out on not just this issue, but all sorts of issues as we continue month after month. I mean, there's a real push and pull right now within the Democratic Party. Having said that, Nancy Pelosi has the numbers, she has the moderates, she has the folks in those swing districts, the Trump swing districts. So I think she'll be just fine. Ocasio-Cortez doesn't have those numbers.
Who has a better pulse for Democratic voters?
Between those two? Yeah, I think Pelosi understands the game better than Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Remember, all AOC, can I stop saying, just let me say AOC. Can I do that? She would prefer that, I'm sure. Look, all AOC did, honestly, at this point, other than have a big media following, she made a blue district in New York bluer. That's pretty much what she did. She's very confined to a certain ideology. Now she has Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar in the media, so that makes it even look like it's more than it really is out in the country.
David, I'd like to squeeze in one last question. 30 seconds left. Finally, Ross Perot passed away today. What's his legacy?
Well, he may have been, the legacy is twofold. One, he may have prevented George H.W. Bush from having a second term, number one. Number two, he almost received 19% of the popular vote. That's the most independent third-party candidate ever had since 1912. Look, if he had more New York slang rather than Texas twang, I think he would have done a whole lot better and even potentially cost Bill Clinton the presidency.
All right.
You can quote me on that, by the way.
Okay, we will. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Well, tonight an advocacy group is calling for a ban on the U.S. government's use of facial recognition technology. Federal authorities are reportedly using the surveillance technology to scan millions of Americans' faces without their consent. Now the nonprofit group Fight for the Future, says the surveillance technology poses, quote, a profound threat. We need to ban it entirely. Ohio Republican Jim Jordan spoke out last month against the use of facial recognition surveillance.
20 states have given their Bureau of Motor Vehicles, Department of Motor, the database, driver's license database, they've just given access to that to the FBI. No individual signed off on that when they renewed their driver's license, got their driver. They didn't sign any waiver saying, oh, it's okay to turn my information, my photo over to the FBI. No elected officials voted to allow that to happen.
The FBI and Immigration Customs Enforcement agencies, according to the Washington Post, are mining states' driver's license databases and DMV records of American citizens.
A new report outlines trends in violent mass attacks in America. We'll show you some of the warning signs when we come back.
soldiers destroy the Second Temple of Jerusalem. Centuries of eyewitnesses say the temple treasures survived. But where are they?
They went from Jerusalem to Rome, Rome to Carthage, Carthage to Byzantium.
Historians are silent about what happened to it next.
This is a bad omen.
Hosted and narrated by Gordon Robertson.
So does it still exist today?
CBN Documentaries presents a story of mystery.
Where is it?
Calamity. Most of the victims were butchered. And destiny.
The possibility to dig is impossible.
Take a journey to find Treasures of the Second Temple, a CBN Documentaries presentation, coming July 8th.
Welcome back. Republican lawmakers in Virginia adjourned a special legislative session just a few hours after it began today. The session, which focused on gun control, was called by Democratic Governor Ralph Northam after 12 people were shot and killed at the Virginia Beach Municipal Office in May. Some Virginia lawmakers say the governor was trying to use the tragedy for political gains. The legislature is now adjourned until November.
The Secret Service is now tracking mass attacks like the one in Virginia Beach. Experts are looking for ways to prevent them.
Tonight, they're releasing a report of their findings. CBN News national security correspondent Eric Phillips brings us the details. Eric?
John and Jenna, the National Threat Assessment Center is part of the Secret Service, and today it released its 2018 report on mass attacks in public spaces. And they're defining a mass attack as one that kills or injures 3 or more people. There were 27 such attacks in 2018. Some you may have heard of, others perhaps not. The list includes the shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, where 17 were shot and killed. The attack at Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, where 11 were murdered, and the mass shooting at a newsroom in Annapolis, Maryland, where 5 people lost their lives, among others. Officials say there are similarities in these crimes. Most of them are committed by men. 2/3 of them had mental health challenges, and more than half of them had some sort of grievance, like with a family member or coworker. But perhaps the most telling, 93% of them had said or done things that would be considered threatening or at the very least concerning. And that's where experts say awareness comes in.
One of the most effective methods of preventing these types of attacks is having threat assessment protocols in place. And threat assessment is simply identifying individuals early on, because we want to make sure that we're identifying whether it's a kid in distress, whether it's an employee at work who's becoming more engaged in conflicts with coworkers. You want to find out, why is that person engaging in that behavior? Put intervention strategies in place before that person de-escalates to the point where they think violence is an option.
And that's why Dr. Alathari says this is everyone's problem and everyone has to take part in the solution. And by the way, the perpetrators of these crimes ranged in age from 15 to 64. So you're talking about a wide spectrum.
So, Eric, this is the second year for the report. Is the report making a difference?
Well, although officials say they can't necessarily quantify how much of an impact the report and the threat assessment message that comes from it is making, the numbers are very interesting. Take a look. In 2017, there were 28 mass attacks resulting in the loss of 147 lives and 700 people injured. Now, in 2018, the number of mass attacks dropped by only 1 to 27. But look at the number of those killed. They decreased significantly from 147 to 91. And the number of those injured went from 700 to 107.
All right, Eric Phillips, thank you very much.
Coming up, we'll show you how one of the leading denominations is working to reduce abortion in black communities.
Give me that. Bye. Sure, life is busy, but I found a way to make a huge difference in people's lives. I guess you could say I'm changing the world right here from home. I bring medical supplies and doctors to people in need, and dig wells so that villagers can have clean and safe water to drink. I make it possible to preach the gospel in over 100 countries, including right here in America. And when disaster strikes, I'm there. providing food, thank you, and emergency supplies to give people hope again. Every day, CBN and I are making the world a better place. Here you go. My life is hectic, so I joined CBN through Pledge Express. My bank does all the work, and I know that my gift is being used where it's needed most. So become a CBN partner and join Pledge Express, because you can do a world of good right from where you are. Hi, good morning. Are you ready to get started?
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Get Protect Your Sleep and live your best life with innovative information from 5 leading sleep experts.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
Discover a sleep-enhancing bedtime routine, how to put insomnia to rest, learn how to relieve pain that disturbs sleep, and much more in Protect Your Sleep.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Don't miss out on this brand new series.
Well, Missouri voters may get a chance to decide the fate of a new abortion ban restricting the procedure after 8 weeks of pregnancy. The Missouri Court of Appeals is ordering the Secretary of State to approve a referendum challenging the law. The referendum application was submitted by the ACLU. It would allow Missourians to vote either to approve or reverse the ban, most of which is set to go into effect August 28th. The ACLU would have to collect more than 100,000 signatures by then to put the law on hold until a public vote in 2020.
Abortion statistics in the Black community are alarming, and many African-American churches have been silent on the issue.
But as Charlene Aaron reports, one of the country's largest Black denominations is speaking out and taking a stand by helping more women choose life.
According to U.S. Census data, Blacks make up only 13% of the U.S. population, yet more than 30% of aborted babies are from Black mothers.
It is the #1 killer of all African Americans in the nation. You can add cancer, you can add AIDS, you can add car accidents, homicides, crime, shooting, name the gamut and put those together, and it will not equal the amount of lives that we lose to abortion.
It is an issue Charles Blake, the presiding bishop of the Church of God in Christ, also known as COGIC, has spoken out about in the past.
Black women, according to the statistics, are almost 4 times as likely to have an abortion as are white women. And almost 65 of those who have had abortions have never been married. You're killing a human being. It's a human being from the moment it's conceived.
With more than 6.5 million members worldwide, COGIC is working with the Pro-Life Human Coalition Network to help Black women choose life. They call it the Family Life Campaign, which challenges church members to personally take action in fighting for the unborn. COGIC members are encouraged to act in various ways, such as counseling outside abortion clinics or working with expectant mothers inside pregnancy centers. Campaign Vice President Leslie Monet says this mission is vital to the survival of both the Black family and the Black church.
We've placed this at the center of our missions department, where we are telling churches, hey, this is what we need to be grilling our children, our parishioners on. We need to make sure that they're pro-life. We need to make sure children are being taken care of in uterine and outside.
Monet says churches, specifically African-American churches, have been silent on abortion for far too long, which is why COGIC is stepping up to the plate.
I think one of the reasons is because we are afraid to confront that issue in our church because we have been a part of that issue. There are 2 out of 4 women in church are post-abortive. And so I think it's a ruffling of feathers, a great taboo, a secret, darkness that people don't want to shed light on, but we must shed the light on this issue.
In the meantime, COGIC hopes other denominations will join in the fight to make abortion unthinkable and unavailable in the Black community and beyond. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Why a new court ruling could mean President Trump will see a lot more tweets from people he doesn't agree with when we come back.
We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
As the nations rage, you can stand with Israel.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
Call 1-800-700-7000 and get to life.
This is our nature as a country.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he has, which color he is, this is what I'm doing.
Support Israel in their time of need. Get to Life, now available on DVD. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
And I wish that other people throughout the world could see this side of Israel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
President Trump uses Twitter to promote his policies, and Jenna, I'm not sure if you're aware, but occasionally to criticize some of his opponents. But now a new court ruling may force the president to face some of his own critics.
A federal appeals court ruled today that the president cannot block people who criticize him on the social media platform. Last year, a lower court found President Trump blocking critics to be unconstitutional because they can no longer see his tweets, which sometimes include official administration announcements. Today, a 3-judge panel from a Second Circuit Court of Appeals agreed with that lower court ruling, concluding, quote, that once the president has chosen a platform and opened up its interactive space to millions of users and participants, he may not selectively exclude those whose views he disagrees with.
I can imagine. People disagree with the president?
You don't say.
That news to me.
All right.
Well, that does it for this edition of Faith Nation.
Have a great night.